Welcome back students, welcome back to RJR Academy to biology session. Next we move to the new chapter, the paper discussion for human physiology, that is locomotion and movement. First question, the 91 question. The amoeboid movement results from, so we have to study the different types of movement, the flagellar movement, amoeboid movement, the muscular movement, in which the amoeboid movement results in what? It interactions among the actin, myosin and the ATP, etc. So, option 1 is the correct answer for this particular question. So, amoeboid movement. Next question. The skeletal muscle fibers is a syncytium, which mean it is, as already told you, like skeletal muscles, the syncytium formation is a multinucleated stage. What happens like where the karyokinesis alone is taking place and not the cytokinesis? What happens like in cytokinesis? It's arrested where only the nuclear division is taking place inside the cell. It means where the accumulation of the nucleus which takes place, so it leads to the multinucleate condition. So, this we call it as a multinucleated, that is syncytium formation. So, option 4 is, that is 4 is the correct answer for 92. Question number 93, myoglobin. So, myoglobin, where the myoglobin is present? Myoglobin is present inside the muscles. Question 93, it is muscle. The myoglobin which present inside the muscle, because the muscles which are the, which is the myoglobin, and the myoglobin is a iron containing. Myoglobin is iron containing. It's a globular protein which resembles same like that of the hemoglobin, which found in the muscle cells, and it comprises of what? Comprises of single polypeptide chain and the heme group. It's same like a hemoglobin. So, which is like reversibly with oxygen, hence it acts like what? Oxygen reservoir. So, with the muscles and the fibers and produce the muscle oxygen, and demand outpaces like supply from the blood, and this during a strenuous exercises this will happen. So, question 93 is a muscle is the correct answer. Coming to the 94, actin binding proteins are located in, where it is troponin, no, tropomyosin. Then the correct answer is myromyosin. You would have studied the myromyosin is classified into two, that is light myromyosin and heavy myromyosin. So, 94 myromyosin, it's classified into LMM. LMM stands for light myromyosin and HMM stands for heavy myromyosin. In each segments you could see the ATPase sites and the binding site for the actin. So, correct option is 3 for question 94. 95, energy is stored in the liver and the muscles in the form of what? It's in the form of glycogen, So, it's a very simple question. Option 2 is the correct answer. Question 96, assertion and reason question. On stimulation, a muscle cell releases calcium ions from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Reason, by reacting with the protein complex, calcium uncover active sites of the actin filaments. Here, both assertion and reason are true, but reason is not the correct explanation of the assertion. That is the correct answer. So, option 2. 97, anaerobic breakdown of glycogen due to the repeated activation of muscles leads to the accumulation of what? Lactic acid. If you are an athlete, if you are running very fast on the ground, one point of time like muscle go to the fatigue condition, muscle go weak. This due to the accumulation of lactic acid. Once the lactic acid comes, what happens? There will be lack of oxygen, more carbon dioxide will be accumulated. This is the reason why if you run, if you do the workouts continuously, but at one point of time like you be suffocated. This because of the lactic acid accumulation in the muscles where there will be a lack of oxygen. So, correct answer is 3 for this particular question. And lactic acid when it produces in the absence of oxygen. You would have studied the lactic acid fermentation also. It occurs in the absence of oxygen. Question number 98. Which of the following is not involved in the muscular contraction? You could see troponin, yes, it involved. Actin, yes, it involved. Calcium, yes, of course, without the help of calcium, this will not take place. So, none of this is the correct answer for question 98. Coming to the next question, 99. As far as 99 is concerned, the protein whose removal enables myosin to bind actin in smooth muscle is what? It is myosin light chain kinase. For question number 99, it is myosin light chain kinase is the correct. Option 3 is the correct answer. Okay. So, next we move on to the question 100. Upon stimulation of skeletal muscle, calcium is immediately made available for binding to troponin from How this getting bind? Actually by the stimulation of what? Sarcoplasmic reticulum, because sarcoplasmic reticulum which includes calcium ions. So option 3 is the correct answer for question 100. Question 101. Which of the following is not a function of a skeletal muscles? Locomotion is very important function. Yes. Skeletal system, production of erythrocytes which performs an important function. But storage of minerals also okay. But production of the body heat is not the main function of the skeletal system. Okay. So question 101, A is 1 is the correct answer. Question 102. The U-shaped bone present at the base of the buccal cavity, the one bone that you could see, right? This we call it as an hyoid bone, because this bone, question number 102, the bone which present in the buccal cavity, this bone is called as hyoid bone. When you talk about hyoid bone, it's situated in the wall of the upper part of the thorax. This where this is present. This bone is present in the upper part of the thorax region. So this plays a very important role where this bone, which present in the upper part of the thorax and at the base of the buccal cavity. This you could see the base of the buccal cavity, and it serves as the point of attachment of some of the muscles of the tongue and floor of the mouth, but it does not articulate with the other bone. It's a single bone where it will not be articulated with any other bone. So for this particular question, option 4 is the correct answer. Question 103. Coming to the next question, 103. This question, human vertebral column consists of 33 vertebrae, and how many bones are there? You could see the vertebrae, you could see 26 bones coming with the cervical part, and then we go with the thoracic, then the lumbar, then the sacrum and coccygeal. If you just calculate all these bones that you could see, it's a 26 bones that you could see altogether. Then 104, the coxal bone of the pelvic girdle is formed by the fusion of, if you see the pelvic girdle, question number 104, you take 104, if the pelvic girdle, you take 3 parts. This is the pelvic girdle, 2 parts actually. This is the first part and this is the second part. In this part, you could see the fusion of the 3 bones that you could see. What are the 3 bones? That ilium, ischium and pubis. You could see ilium, ischium and you could see the pubis. Together it fused together and represent as a one on this side and the other one on the other side. So 2, the pelvic girdle you could see. But pectoral girdle, if you take, it is 4 in number. Here it is 2 and here it is 2. 4 in number. That is a clavicle and scapula we call it as. But in pelvic girdle, it is 2 here actually, because together it is 1 and here also it's together it seems to be 1. So option 1 is the correct answer. 105. In human beings, the cranium is formed. Take the cranium, the entire part of the cranium is being formed. The cranium is formed by means of 8 bones, of which 2 are paired. So if you see how this 8 bones of which, like you could see, 2 are paired. The cranium is formed of course you know it's 8 bones, and it provides the bone protection for the brain. And this bones which is the cranium are, you know, the frontal bone, parietal bone, you know, you could see the temporal, the 2 temporal bone. So what are the divisions that you could see as far as 105 is concerned? You take 105. Take 105. Out of the 8 bones, you could see one frontal bone and 2 parietal bone and 2 temporal bone, 1 occipital bone, 1 sphenoid bone, 1 sphenoid and 1 ethmoid bone. You could see 1 ethmoid bone. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So totally in the skull you could see these 8 bones. So in division they will ask also like how many occipital bone in the skull. That is only 1 bone that you could see. In the individual segment also you may get the question. So 8 bones are there in a skull. Next question, 106. The matrix of bone and cartilage can be distinguished by the presence of, there is a canal you could see there, this canal is called as Arvesian canal. So option 1, Arvesian canal. 106, Arvesian canal that you could see in this case. Okay, the next question. So option 1 is the correct answer for 106. Number of cervical vertebrae in humans. There are like 7 vertebrae. There are 7 vertebrae that you could see. 7 vertebrae. Out of 7 vertebrae, the first and second vertebrae we call it as atlas and axis. This atlas is a S bone and axis is a no bone. Okay, so 7 vertebral thing that you could see in case of 107. That is option 1 is the correct answer. Next we move to the next question, 108. The pivotal joints between the atlas and axis. What is the joint that you could see between the atlas and axis? Between the atlas and axis you could see the pivot joint. This is the pivot joint and we call it as a synovial. This is a synovial joint that you could see between your atlas and axis. This is a type of pivot joint and this pivot joint we call it as a synovial joint. So option 2 is the correct answer. Question 109. Gliding joint is present between, so you know carpals, like you know you could see the carpals where the gliding joint is present. Question number 109. The gliding joint is present in between the carpals. Come to 110. The ball and socket joint is found. So the ball and socket joint here you could see here in this case, right? The scapula, and here you could see this gliding and the socket joint. Okay, the ball and socket joint. This you could see in case of shoulder. This joint where you could see this is the clavicle, and you could see the clavicle. This is the scapula and this is the clavicle. This is the clavicle that you could see. And here we have this ball and socket. So this we call it as a ball and socket joint, and this cavity we call it as glenoid cavity. So this cavity is called as glenoid cavity, but in case of pelvic girdle you call it as acetabulum, but here this cavity is called as glenoid cavity, which forms like ball and socket joint. So question 110, it is shoulder. 111, question number 111. Myasthenia gravis is an example for, it's an autoimmune disorder. Autoimmune disorders which affects the neuromuscular junction and leading to the fatigue and weakening and the paralysis of the skeletal muscles. So what is autoimmune disease? Your own immune cells will start acting against your own body cells, then this is called it as an autoimmune cells. So myasthenia gravis is one among that option. So option 3 is the correct answer. Question 112. Select the following statement with respect to the disorders of muscles in humans. For this, the first order, that is like the failure of neuromuscular transmission in myasthenia gravis can prevent the normal swallowing. So option 1 is the correct answer for question number 112. Okay, the reason the myasthenia gravis is autoimmune disorder that you know, in which auto antibodies which produce against its own body cells, then what happens, the neurotransmitters it cannot be produced because it's acting against its own the junction itself. So automatically this failure of weakening of and paralysis of the muscles takes place, and the throat which may prevents like the normal swallowing. So option 1 is the correct answer. Question number 113. Inflammation of joints due to the accumulation of uric acid crystals. In the last chapter itself we discussed uric acid crystals, if just accumulated, this condition is called as, usually which occurs in the muscles where you could see the skeletal bone, the skeletal joints that you could see. This is because condition is called as gout. Option 1 is the correct answer. Then the globular head of myosin. So globular head of myosin which consists of ATPase enzyme. When you take the globular end of myosin, you take triple end, you see the myosin head. If you look at the myosin head here, that is heavy muromyosin. So one head is actually which is for ATP binding site, the other head part is for the actin binding site. So there are two binding heads that you could see as far as myosin is concerned. So for this particular question, the answer is ATPase enzyme. Okay, next question 115. The important muscle protein that helps in movement are, movement is all the protein, actin, myosin, troponin, tropomyosin, all the 4 proteins which plays a very important role in the locomotion or the movement. So all of this is the correct answer. So 116, the type of muscles present in her, they are given the 4 options in which you could see the thigh is striated. In the thigh muscles you could see, because we have 2 types of muscles, striated muscles and the non-striated muscles. You could see the cardiac muscles, the skeletal muscles and visceral organs that you could see. But this option, the thigh is striated, and of course it is voluntary because it is under your control. It is like visceral organs are present inside your body, it is involuntary. So option 3 is the correct answer. Question number 117. In the resting muscles, fiber tropomyosin partially covers. So in the resting muscle, what happens, like when you see the coordination between the actin and myosin, who is covering actually the actin side of the resting state? If you're not doing any work, if the muscle is not going for contraction, who is covering actually the binding actin side of the actin? It is actually the troponin. You could see the tropomyosin. So the tropomyosin actually which is covering. For example, if you could see, these are the actin proteins which is present. actin proteins, and you could see the particular site, this site is called as G-actin site. This is called as G-actin site, and on the whole you could see the troponin. This is troponin, and who is covering the active site? This is tropomyosin, the tropomyosin. So the option for this particular question is tropomyosin. Myosin bindings with sites on the actin when it is in the resting condition. If you are doing any work, if you are going for contraction, then this tropomyosin, which will be like an uncapped, unmasked on this part, then your actin site will be exposed, and this will go and bind with the myosin head. Question number 118. The lumbar region of the vertebral column. How many lumbar are there? We have 5 lumbar, L1 to L5. So option 5 is the correct, 4 is the correct answer, 5 vertebrae. Question 119. Symphysis contains, symphysis, when you take question number 119. What is actually the symphysis which consists of? The symphysis which contains fibrous cartilage, because which refers, what is symphysis? Which refers to the joints in which the bones are separated to what? Separated by means of, that is a fibrocartilage, and this containing dense bundles of fibers which minimizes the movements and makes the bony structure rigid. Example, you take our pubic symphysis, that is like between pubis bones or the pelvis, and joints of the backbones. The backbones that is getting separated by means of intervertebral disc. Okay, so option 2 is the correct answer. Question 120. Which one of the following is the correct description of a certain part of the normal human skeleton? Parietal bone and the temporal bone of the skull are joined by means of the fibrous joint. So question 121 is the correct answer, because the bones of the skulls of joints by which white fibrous tissue that you could see which sustain no movement, you would see these are being connected by means of sutures. There's a non-movable joints that you could see, right? And between the skull bones, this kind of joint we classified as the fibrous or the immobile joints, and this has been connected by means of structure called as sutures. So 1 is the correct answer. Then Avesian, just now we told Avesian canal. Avesian canal which is connected with the bones. Avesian canal is connected with the bones, and this is option 3. That is bone is the correct answer. Question 122. Which of the following joints would allow no movements? I told you fibrous joints or the non-movable joints which you could see in the skull. This is made up of being connected with the sutures. So fibrous joints are non-movable joints. Question 122, fibrous joints, because where white fibrous tissue is present, and this makes the bones of the skull called as sutures. And you could see the joints between the teeth, right? Your teeth and the maxilla. This also which considered to be in fibrous joints. So 3 is the correct answer for 122. 123, ankle, knee, elbow joints, all these joints which comes under the synovial joints, because the synovial joints are characterized by the freely movable joints that you could see between the articulating surface of the two bones. We could see in the glenoid cavity in the forelimb, and in hind limb you could see in the acetabulum. So this makes actually, you could see the arachnoid process here, actually you could see this will not make your hand to move in a 360 degrees. Fine. So here this one you take synovial joints is the correct answer. 124, the joints between the carpal bones we discussed already. This is the gliding joint. The carpals is actually the gliding joints we discussed already. So 124, 1 is the correct answer. Autoimmune disorder, if any autoimmune disorder which comes which affects the neuromuscular junction, definitely go with the myasthenia gravis. So option 124 is the correct answer for 125. Question 126, gout. Gout is characterized by the accumulation of what? Uric acid. Where? So usually this uric acid which usually in the skeletal joints where the uric acid will be accumulated. Then question number 127. Passage of ova through the reproductive tract is facilitated. We have amoeboid movement, flagellary movement, ciliary movement. The movement of ova which occurs in the fallopian tube is a classical example for ciliary movement. So question 127, 1 is the correct answer. Next we move on to the question number 128. Coming to the 128 question. So what the question says, read the following statement carefully and select the correct ones. Here you could see the first one out of this 4. The correct one is the 4th. The first one, only 4. That is, smooth muscles are non-striated. Smooth muscles are non-striated. Where you could see inside the visceral things and all, smooth muscles, usually it is not striated. So option 1 is the correct answer. Question number 129. 129, you could see what is a sarcomere. Sarcomere is a part between two Z lines. If you see in case of the question number 129, you could see this is a band that you could see, I band, A band, that usually we call it as, right? We call it as I band and A band. If you call it as like this, and we have the structure like this. So here we have a Z line. Here we have a line. This line is Z line, and here we have a Z line. So, and middle is called M line. We call it as, that is like, in between one Z line, the other Z line, right? This is actually, we call it a sarcomere. Sarcomere is actually between, it's a contractile unit which is between the one Z line and the other Z line. So, option for this, it's part between the two Z lines is called as sarcomere, and sarcomere is a contractile unit. Question 130, the slow twitch muscles, fibers which are rich in myoglobin and have abundant mitochondria. So, we have two muscle fibers, red muscle fiber and the white muscle fiber, in which more of mitochondria that you could see in case of red skeletal muscles. So, option 3 is the correct answer for question number 130, because such muscles are this red muscles which consist of high content of myoglobin and have abundant mitochondria, and it is having the low rate of contraction. So, the periods that we explore the twitch muscles, but in case of like other type of muscles like white muscles, where you could see very often, very in the shorter duration, it go with the contraction or we go with the fatigue, but it's not with the red muscles. So, next question, question number 131, which of the following is the bone of a skull? So, phalanges, patella which come in the leg part, atlas which comes in the cervical part, phalanges here like the forelimb and hind limb. So, only the ethmoid. So, option 3 is the correct answer. Ethmoid is the bone of a skull, and atlas is the bone of the vertebral column, and patella is the bone of the hind limb, and phalanges are the bone of a limbs. Then question number 132, the cervical vertebrae called axis provides head in a sideways rotation. It because what? It contains odontoid process. There is a process, odontoid process, that fits in the odontoid canal of the atlas. That's the reason we call the atlas bone is actually, we call it as an S bone, because of the odontoid process, right? We just rotate the head up and down. This is because of the first vertebrae, atlas, and we move the head in the left and right. This is because of the axis. So, we call this as a no bone. How we rotate the head to up and down stage? This is because of the atlas, the odontoid process. So, for this particular question, we go with the option 4. Then 133, the total number of bones in the hind limb of a man is a 30. So, in the forelimb here it is 30, in the left here we have a 30. So, together we have 60. If they are asking for one hind limb, it's of only 30 bones. So, collarbone. So, collarbone, what is other? This is what I mentioned, the collarbone. The collarbone is a part of the pectoral girdle. This collarbone is also called as clavicle. Okay, this is a clavicle. So, clavicle is the collarbone. So, option 2 is the correct answer. Question number 135, which one of the following pairs of structures is correctly matched with the description? Here you could see joint between the atlas and axis. I told you like atlas and axis, these two are the synovial joints which comes in the category of the pivot joint. So, you always remember atlas and axis, the first and second vertebrae is of the pivot joint which comes under the synovial joint. For this particular question, option 2 is the correct answer.